Poetic Books, welcome to week 2. We're on Job, part 2. This is just going to be a little bit of a 3 or 4 or 5 minute video, just kind of framing the issue for the week. I hope you had a good first week and are ready to engage in some more study of the book of Job. What we're doing is we're kind of starting around chapter 3, and what you're going to see is, I'm not going to rehash the whole notes, but what you're going to see is that Job is, first of all, he's lamenting the day that he was born. He kind of has a poetic structure of speech that's recorded in Job chapter 3, and he's basically using all of these metaphors and structure of poetry just to communicate the overwhelming sense of sadness that he has at losing 10 of his children. His wife's turned against him, just said, curse God and die. Not good advice, but understandable given the circumstances. And I want you to think, it's really easy to kind of view this as a faraway idea, as a story. I want you to put yourself in his shoes. Now, I'm not asking how many of you have ever lost a child, although there may be some people to whom that applies. But even if you have not gone through the issue, you probably know someone who has. Put yourself in the shoes. Think about how you or the person that you know experience suffering. Now think about what you want in that scenario, what you want from other people. Do you want them to leave you alone? Well, maybe for a time. You might be a little overwhelmed and need some time to yourself. But if you're going to have interaction with those people, what kind of interaction do you want? Well, I can tell you what you probably don't want. You probably don't want people like Job's 3 friends. They come in and they give their successive speeches, and you know what's interesting is you'll actually find yourself agreeing with some of the things that they say, especially if you have sound theology. A couple of the things that, they'll be, okay, that's right. But you know what? This is a good lesson for you in dealing with people in this kind of situation. Nobody wants to hear about how they deserved it. Nobody wants to hear about how, because of our sin, we deserve hell, and hell is much worse than what we got here in life, so we should be thankful. It's called tact, okay? It's called interpersonal skills. You don't want to be socially stunted while presenting your theology. That's just not going to help anyone. So these friends weren't being very friendly. They weren't being interpersonal relationship oriented. And Ephesians 4 tells us we need to be speaking the truth in love. So even if all of what they said was true, which is not the case, by the way, but even if it were the case, their whole method was backwards. They tried to honor him by coming out to him and being with him, but their speeches were lacking in both tact and in substance. There's some of these areas where, anytime you receive any kind of suffering, it's because God's punishing you for sin. Anytime that does not match up one-to-one correspondence. It's not matching up with what we see in the Bible, and it's not matching up with what we see in the book of Job. In fact, if you remember from Job 1, the whole deal was a dispute between Satan and God. Satan saying, I'll show you, God, watch this. Job's going to turn against you, not because of sin in Job's life. So they were completely off in that way. What I want you to think about is going to be the discussion board question coming up for the forum. When you're going through a trial, your friends and your family can provide great assistance in order to help you through it. So Job's 3 friends came for the purposes of helping him, but they ended up doing the opposite. So you're going to want to look at 5 ways that you believe Job's friends specifically failed in their response to him. 5 different ways. Try to come up with them on your own without first reading other people's. And then try to figure out how you can turn each of those 5 failures into successful ways to help others in their time of need. This will really be practical for you on the ground level. It'll also help you with your theology of suffering. I think we have a terrible theology of suffering. So as long as we get through that, understanding that not everything's a punishment, you're going to be able to really be in a position to minister to people, and it'll affect your theology, and it'll affect your life, and that's the best kind of theology right there. So enjoy the week. And as always, contact me if you have any questions.